So I pretty much just finished reviewing one of these sales calls that happened within my agency. And then just before that, I did another call with some of our students where I reviewed more of their sales calls. So I pretty much got sales calls kind of top of mind at the moment. And I thought, you know what? I usually answer the same questions over and over. And wouldn't it be great if I just made a closer's guide for agencies for 2023 and just put it all in one place? So that's what you're about to watch. These are the biggest lessons that I've kind of learned closing for agencies for a very long time. And there are ones that I wish I had when I started this year and when I started my first agency. So again, why should you care? Who am I if you're new to the channel? My name's Courtne. I've built and scaled 2 agencies, one of which Centrosite, built that, scaled it and sold it. The second one, Growth Tube, which I've made lots of videos about on this channel, including the entire process of how I went from 0 to 20K in 45 days, right? So that's on the channel, I'm sure you know. But I also, as I said, run an education business where I help agency owners, probably like yourself, and I've reviewed dozens and dozens of their sales calls and helped a lot of people with sales, right? So safe to say, I know quite a little bit about sales, and this is everything that I know. Pretty much I've got no plan or no order here. I've got some notes that I'm going to go through, and everything that I'm about to give you is not in a particular order whatsoever. It's kind of just like what came to my mind first and foremost. And I'm just going to run through it. I think this will be incredibly valuable to you if you are trying to improve your closing rate. And then at the end, I'm also going to give you a little bit of a bonus that I wish I had. So with that being said, let us start with the first thing. And by the way, I'll probably put like a little list over here just so you can see all the points. The first thing is 2 call versus 1 call close. If you've been in the agency kind of high ticket game for a while, this is the question that like everyone asks. I get asked this question so many times. And I think that I have a very unpopular opinion because I know most people recommend just go for 1 call close, right? And I think my opinion honestly probably lands more towards a 2 call, provided it makes sense to do a 2 call, right? And that's what I actually mean. So my advice and what I train my team on now is go to the call without the expectation of a 1 call or a 2 call and make the decision depending on the dynamics of the call. So what does that mean? Well, if there's nothing to audit, don't go for a 2nd call, right? So usually the way we do audits is we sense that, okay, let's say we're selling YouTube ads as an example. If the customer has spent $100,000 on YouTube ads before and they're having a sales call with us, it's because they weren't happy with the money that they spent, right? Otherwise, why would they speak to another agency? So we know that, okay, if you've spent a decent amount on ads, decent amount, not like $10, like a decent amount, and it didn't work, what is the reason? Maybe the reason is their offer sucks. Their market doesn't exist, or YouTube ads just doesn't work for them. So again, we kind of protect ourselves because we don't want to bring on a client if we know we can't help them. So it actually makes sense to audit them. But also that client we know is going to be logistically very difficult to close because they already have done YouTube ads. Like they've already tried it, experienced it. So we can't just promise them things because whoever ran their ads before probably did that. And that's going to show some immediate red flags. So if we just do the same thing, we're probably going to lose the customer. And yes, obviously if we are very good at sales and we have case studies, we can maybe avoid that. But again, the game of sales is about stacking the cards in your favor, right? How can we make the sale easier, not more difficult, right? And so the easiest way to handle that is to audit it, identify all the loopholes, and then show it to the potential prospect so that the next time he gets on a sales call, he feels way more at ease because you've actually showed him why it didn't work in the past and you've kind of made him feel like you're not going to repeat the mistakes of the past, right? So it makes it way easier. But if they've never spent anything on ads, there's actually nothing to audit, then don't go for a 2nd call. Just go straight for 1 call close. That's what I've seen most of the time. Okay, the second thing is you need to understand that all sales calls follow the same basic structure. And you will know if you're part of my program, I don't teach people sales scripts because I don't think that they work. I think first of all, it makes you sound like a robot, which breaks sales rapport and does a lot of damage to you versus helping you. But secondly, a script by its nature is not problem solving. It's literally just running through a script. And I believe, and again, this might not be a very popular opinion, but I believe that sales is a game of solving problems. It's simply a game of, okay, what problems do you have? And I know my offer and my service well enough to know if I can solve those problems and to be able to articulate myself and explain how and why I'm going to solve those problems. And if the how and the why mean the most to the prospect, in other words, it means more to them than whatever our fee is, they will say yes. And if they actually believe that I can deliver on it, that's how sales works, right? And I believe that to effectively deliver on that, if you just go through a script, you lose the ability to chop and change the way you approach it, which is not problem solving. It's kind of like a one size fits all solution, which everyone uses. And that's why everyone sucks at sales, right? That's kind of my view. So this is the structure that I think every sales call goes through. And as long as you are hitting this structure in the right order and that you're not jumping from one to the other without first clarifying the previous one, it should be a successful sales call. So the first is rapport building. It's usually about 5 minutes. This is pretty much, hey, how are you? Good, thanks. the weather looks great by you. Pretty much just like that chit chat in the beginning, right? Then it's discovery. So this is anything from figuring out, okay, have they run ads in the past? Why are they on this call? All the discovery questions. Then it is pre-pitch. Very, very important. You don't just go from discovery straight to pitching the offer. You get them permission first. So you say, okay, I think that I can help you solve these problems because I've seen these same problems a million times before. In fact, today I've seen it about 5 times. So can I explain to you quickly how we would go about solving them for you specifically? That is a pre-pitch. So I've pre-pitched them on the offer and got their permission to then actually sell my offer. Okay. Then we go into the actual pitch, which is pitching them the offer, not the price, the offer. And what I always talk about here is pitch them 3 pillars. A lot of people, when they think about pitching the offer, they go into the dynamics. They go into, okay, we're going to run your ads, we're going to do your copy, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And again, people don't buy fundamentals like that. They buy outcomes, right? So we're going to say, okay, we're going to get traffic to your site. Now, I'm not talking about Facebook ads, Google ads, any of these things. We're going to get traffic to your site. We're going to qualify that traffic. We're going to convert it well with our creative that we're going to do for you. And finally, we're going to achieve some form of ROAS like this, right? That's just a way to do it. So pretty much you want to create 3 pillars. And I'm going to make an entire video on what those 3 pillars should be because it's a bit more in depth. But pitch them 3 pillars, which are your 3 outcomes, not the actual dynamics of we're going to do this and this and this, and this is how long it's going to take to write the copy, and just don't go into the weeds. As soon as you go into the weeds on the dynamics and you're not keeping it super high level, you open yourself up to a lot of questions, which breaks the sale. Because number 1, it takes time. But number 2, also whoever's doing the sales usually is not the person delivering the service. So they're not actually qualified to answer it, which the prospect will recognize immediately. Okay. After that, you wait till they ask for the price, then you drop the price, and then you go into objection handling. That's pretty much the way calls should run, right? If you're doing that in the wrong order or you're skipping steps, that's your problem. Just fix that straight away and you should improve your closing rate. The next thing that I have as a point here is only use slides if absolutely necessary and if you're in a niche that allows it. Okay, so I'm not a big fan of slides in sales calls. Again, because like I said, sales calls by its nature should be about problem solving. When you walk into there with a script or slides, you're not solving problems. Again, you're offering a one-size-fits-all solution. And I genuinely think that as you start to sell higher ticket services, people don't like one-size-fits-all because they know that it's generic and generic is always cheaper, right? If you look at like anything, every generic version is always cheaper than the main thing, right? A fake iPhone is cheaper than the original iPhone. Generic medicine is cheaper than original medicine, right? That's just how it works. And if you have a generic offer, you will never be able to command 5, 6, 7K retainers. But if you go into the call, you listen to them well, and you construct an offer based on what your offer actually is, but you construct it in a way that makes it seem like it's for them, because it's customized for them, you can charge a lot more. It's the same thing with cars, right? If you buy a normal car, it's the price. As soon as you start customizing it, the price skyrockets, right? The same thing is here. And even if you don't change the price, you just keep it the same. If you create the perception that it is worth more because it's customized, it's easier to sell. Okay, so I just don't like slides. I would just say maybe if you're in a niche that allows it, for example, if you're selling to like accountants or financial advisors, they probably are used to using slides on a daily basis. So for a niche like that, it might make more sense. But if you're going for a hyper competitive niche, info, ecom, any of those, I think you're doing a very big disservice using slides because first of all, the people you're selling to don't like slides, right? They're probably used to it. It also just makes the whole thing feel like a sales call. Like as soon as I'm on a sales call and someone's trying to sell me something and they pull out slides, I just like, you've lost me because I'm like, okay, now I'm in a sales call. Whereas before I was just having a conversation, sharing, my problems and they were giving me their feedback. That's how it needs to feel. So again, I might have a very unpopular opinion, but that's just what I've learned. Now, obviously, if it's the first time that you've ever done sales before and you're very, very nervous and you don't have that conviction in yourself, slides might give you a better structure to the call and they might improve your confidence. Then I think it's a necessary trade-off, right? Like then it makes sense, but not because slides make sense, because confidence is required on sales calls. And this is going to give you more confidence, right? That I think is a valid trade-off. But if you're very comfortable selling, you've done a lot of selling, I think it does more damage than good. I really, really do. So I would try and avoid it. Okay. The next thing is understand you as an individual, how you actually sell. So most people don't know this, but there's 2 ways to sell. There's emotional and there's logical, right? So the logical form of selling, which I know is what I'm good at, is pretty much going through the math. And it's like, okay, how much are you going to spend? What's your estimated costs? What would you like to make? Let's reverse engineer. Let's figure out how it makes sense on paper. Let's do the working out. Let's solve this and let's make the math tell us if this is right or wrong for you to take action. And then when they push back on me, I say, okay, but we just spent the last 50 minutes ensuring that this is going to work based on this and this and this. Do you agree with any of my calculations? Do you disagree with any of the numbers? Prospect says no. And then I'm like, okay, so then why are we not moving forward? Like you gave me the numbers and the math, right? So that's logical form of selling. Emotional form of selling is pretty much along the lines of, well, if we achieve this result, what would it do for your family? And you could finally send your daughter to the school she's always dreamed of. Like, and again, like I know I'm saying it like airy fairy because that's how I perceive it. That's the archetype that I am. But I know some emotional sellers who absolutely kill it. So I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I just think what happens is people try and do a combination of both, and then they end up doing nothing. Like I don't do any emotional selling when I'm on sales calls because I just don't feel comfortable doing it. And I know I'm not good at it. And yeah, I just know that if someone tried to sell me with emotions, I wouldn't buy, right? Like I'm a very black and white person. Like, okay, if math is there, the finances are there, let's do it. Versus if they start asking about how would it make you feel if you did this and that, then I'm like, dude, drop the sales stuff. Let's do the math, right? That's just how I approach sales. Doesn't mean you have to do one or the other. I'm just saying, don't do like half. Figure out what you're best at, what you enjoy, and then just go all in on that. Okay, that is that. And also the other note that I have here is just emotional requires a lot of like you actually telling your own personal story, which I just find takes a lot of time. So that's again why I don't like it. But again, everyone to their own. Okay. Next, a very big thing that I found is price anchor the 3-month commitment always. So for example, let's say you had a $1,000 retainer. Okay. Now I don't recommend anyone do $1,000. I'm just using it as an easy example. So you have two ways you can do this, right? When the person asks how much does it cost, you could say, oh, it costs $1,000 a month. Okay, that's version A. Version B, which is the price anchoring, which is what I recommend, is you say, okay, it's going to cost you $3,000 over a 3-month time period. Now, what I've just done there is I've anchored them to the $3,000. So in their mind, they're thinking, wow, that's a lot. But then I say, oh, but that's over a 3-month time period. So today you only need to pay $1,000. So for them, it's like, oh, their brain processed 3,000, but now they only have to pay $1,000, so it's a good deal. Versus if you just dropped 1,000 in the beginning, you've lost that part, right? So again, small little things like that make a big difference, I've just found. The next thing is take down notes of everything they say and mirror it back to them. Really, really important that you repeat what they say. So if they say something along the lines of, we tried YouTube ads in the past and it didn't work. It's very important that you say, oh, and I know you said you tried YouTube ads in the past, but here's why it's going to be different. And I know you ran ads in the past, but maybe you should have done this and this. We've worked with dozens of clients, by the way, who've ran ads in the past and now they're with us. And so again, you repeat what they say. Very, very important. People like to know that they've been heard. And the best way to do that is pretty much just to act like an echo wall, right? So like consistently take down notes of what they're saying and then find ways to weave that into your speech so that they know that you were listening and they feel heard, right? The next thing is whenever you hear an objection, reframe everything, okay? So I've got one example here which makes, perfect sense. So this is how I would handle every objection. So let's say I drop the price and the person says, wow, that's really expensive. I don't know if I can afford it. I will reframe it based on the previous conversation. And I'd simply ask a question along the lines of, okay, so let me get this straight. If I made the investment today $0, would you purchase? And the prospect is going to say, yeah, of course I'd purchase because, I know that this is going to work and I like you, Courtne, and you seem smart and this and that. So yeah, 100% I would purchase. So what they've just done is they just reaffirmed to themselves and me that the problem is not that they want it. The problem is the price. So then I would just ask them something along the lines of, okay, so based on what you've told me, you know that this is definitely 100% going to work for you and you definitely want it. It's just the number that's not making sense for you. And they would say, yeah, of course. And then I'd say, okay, so are you saying that this outcome that you want, which previously in the call we discussed to be 100K, again, I'm just making 100K as an example. Again, it's important of mirroring and taking down notes what they say when you figure out where they want to be. Would you say that that's not worth the 1K investment today? Because I'm looking at this and I'm like, you want to make 10K per month in the next 30 days, but you're not willing to invest 1K? Like, that doesn't make sense to me, John. And you also just told me that this 100% will get you there and you believe in it. So what are we still talking about? So you can see how I basically got them to handle the objection themselves by just reframing it. Okay, really, really important objection handling technique that I've learned. Right, then that being said, those are like the key main things. There's a lot that goes into sales. I've made entire videos on a lot of these things. That's just broad line. If you're doing all of those things, I guarantee you should have a 70% and above closing rate, right? Unless you have really shitty lead quality coming through the pipe, that's a different problem. The next thing that I want to do is just give you a quick little bonus, which is understand that most sales are actually made pre and after the sales call, right? Most people don't understand this, but a sales call by its nature is actually not about selling, or it is about selling. It's not about explaining. What most people do is they get a prospect to book a call, and then they spend the entire sales call explaining what they actually do. They don't have anything before or after. The sales call by its nature is about selling. So what you need is in between when the prospect books the call and the actual sales call, there needs to be a whole bunch of content sent out to them which already explains the offer, the service, in other words, the actual fundamentals of what you do, and hits them with a bunch of case studies. By the time they get to the sales call, they shouldn't need any explaining of what they're there to be sold, like what the actual offer is. They shouldn't have any questions around like, do these people get results? Do they have, a guarantee? Do they have case studies? It should just be about, okay, is this going to work for me? So you take them through the process and you sell them on the service. So there's basically buy-in before the call. And then finally, I'd say honestly, anywhere from 60 to 70% of most sales close after the initial sales call, which basically means just do not give up on follow-up, right? Follow-up is key. Every time I see very successful sales teams and very suckish sales teams, usually the difference between them is the successful sales team has a system in place to do massive amounts of follow-ups at scale, and the other team doesn't, right? So make sure you have that follow-up system in place. And that's why it's so important to capture phone numbers, right, through the Calendly. So again, a little bonus that I'm giving you guys here is when you do follow-ups, the way most people do follow-ups, even if you do follow-ups, is they do it wrong. So they just send a couple emails or like a couple SMSs. That's fine, but like, that's just not effective, right? If you want to be effective, you phone the people and you phone them every single day and you say, okay, cool. Have you thought about it now? What objections do you have? Let's jump on another call. You phone. So when the prospect books in a call with you through Calendly, make sure that you capture the phone number so that you can phone them, right? So I would say most follow-up should be through phone call, obviously email and SMS in between, but I wouldn't just send email or just send SMS and not do the phone calls, right? So as I said, guys, I hope this was helpful to you. I do a bunch of sales call reviews every single week, and usually I see the same mistakes over and over again. So I wanted to just record this, just put it out there, so I can refer back to it in the future. But whether you need more appointments for your agency or better closing rates, doesn't matter. If you are at all interested and want to work with me, link down below, first link, it will take you to a short video explaining my offer and the fundamentals. If it makes sense for you, book a call. If not, great. I make videos like this every single week, so make sure that you like and subscribe so that YouTube can start showing you more videos just like this, because I know a lot of people suck at running an agency, and even though it's the best business model to start, a lot of people fail, and I don't want you to be one of those people. So I hope this content inspires some of you. At this point, guys, I'm making content that genuinely I wish I had when I was starting. And so I hope that resonates with you. I wish you the best on your agency journey. If I don't chat to you soon, I'll see you in the next video.